Tensions high in Morobe following the attack on 3 people. The National Population Policy launched. And more queries in Parliament on the Games venues.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
This is Wednesday's news. Good evening and thanks for your company. Tensions have been high over the last 24 hours at the Khumalo River crossing in the Morobe Province after one man had his forearm chopped and 2 women were raped by opportunists on Monday night. The man and women were among a group of travellers who encountered the criminals when they were negotiating the dangerous Khumalo River crossing. More than 200 armed men from Gurako and Zeneg areas demanded that the suspects be handed over. Earlier on in the afternoon, the Khumalo River flooded, cutting an impassable trench, leaving motorists stranded yet again.
Yesterday morning, tribesmen from the other side of the Khumalo River crossed over on foot to demand the handover of suspects involved in the rape of 2 women and the knife attack on a senior clan leader. It took stranded motorists by surprise. Crimes like this latest attack have become common when the Khumalo floods and when there's no police presence.
How boy me come up good plus about all youth since one on community suppose solida only no give him good plus tier talks about solino na make motion. They need him narabla man logona cancel him on na make motion for it.
It's understood the 2 women and the man, a senior village elder, were demanded by opportunists to pay a fee to cross the river. When they didn't get what they wanted, they abducted the women and slashed the man. Police have been called in to help resolve the tension. Local leaders expect crimes of opportunity like this to continue when the Khumalo floods. On Monday, a delegation led by the Deputy Opposition Leader and Bulolo MP Sam Basil attempted to cross the Khumalo. They too were stranded for hours until heavy machinery cleared the way.
And what is going on? Francis always want them. Works ministry blame.
They've also questioned why it's taken this long to build a bypass.
But me checking my works engineer and looking whether I'm right money for pilot projects. Suppose I'm no straight.
6 hours later, the Khumalo became impassable again. As with the Khumalo, this was again quite unexpected. In a space of 6 hours, what was a stream has been transformed into this raging torrent behind me. And it's what's costing the government millions of kina to keep this road open. Questions over the Khumalo bypass remain. Both the governor and the Bulolo MP have raised concerns over it, pointing the finger of blame at the Works Minister and the Provincial Works Department. Scott Wide, National EMTV News, Ley.
A local real estate developer has called on the Morobe Provincial Disaster Office to assist a community in Ley build walls to protect them from the Bumbu River floods threatening to destroy their homes. Sovereign Real Estate Managing Director Paddy Tonga has stopped building his own property temporarily. He is now building a wall to reclaim precious land that has been lost, while other homes near the Bumbu River are on the verge of being washed away.
This home in the administration compound is being built purposely for middle-income earning Papua New Guineans to rent. The cost of renting a home has risen in the industrial hub, but for a locally owned real estate company, it's a quest to build affordable homes. But nature has temporarily stopped this development.
And then cost slowing down construction. We are redirecting our budget to work on this one, so we have to put back our whatever we are targeting the work on the property development. We have to must delay this and then come here.
Sovereign Real Estate Managing Director Paddy Tonga calls for direct intervention from the provincial government and the Ley District Administration.
Ley City Authority, National Lands Department, we are taxpayers, so by appreciating suppose government can look Islana, can direct them all relevant bodies look look Islana.
Family homes within Ley's administration compound along the stretch of the Bumbu River are at the mercy of the river. Owners like Paddy have used their own money to build concrete walls to safeguard their investments. The threat of the river brings to attention the struggle in Ley City and other parts of the country for available land to build affordable homes. But that problem may have a solution. Last week, Wednesday, Yanam Omba, one of Lay's traditional landowners, called for the government to help make funding available from banks so that they use their prime land to build affordable homes. Lay's real estate market is the second most expensive in the country. Port Moresby leads. It's also one of the most expensive in the Pacific. Paritonga explains that the cost of developing this property will be added on the rent that customers have to pay. Bethany Harriman, National MTV News, Lay.
The National Planning and Monitoring Department today launched the nation's first national population policy. The policy falls in line with the government's medium-term development goals and embraces most government's agendas. It aims to manage the population growth in the country. MTV's Tekla Gunga with more on this report.
Initially drafted in 1991, the new policy has 16 goals, 72 objectives and over 200 strategies. National Population Policy 2015 to 2025 or NPP articulates the government's responsible sustainable development strategy. It focuses on human beings and aspires to see all children in Papua New Guinea have equal chances to education and other basic government services.
We wanted, through this population, try to manage that as much as possible so that we will have a kind of environment that is sustainable, a kind of environment that we can be able to look after our family well, we can be able to provide for them.
The policy was first considered in 1970, following results from the 1966 national census. 30 years later, in 1991, the first population policy was drafted, but received less government support. It had very little emphasis on sustainable development, labor, education, literacy, and environmental issues. The second attempt for NPP came in 2004, but was not brought forward to Parliament. But finally, the recommendations made by the review team, based on the two attempts in 1991 and 2004, became successful and were taken into account during the third attempt. This became reality with the launch today.
We're simply going to educate them. We're going to work very hard, all of us, to get the community health post up and running. We're going to work very hard with an awareness program, and we're going to make sure that these facilities are available to our ordinary people down in the village at that level.
NPP will be rolled out in all centres in PNG, and Minister Abel, who was directly involved with its formation, drafting and endorsement, stressed that the policy will not determine the number of children a couple plans to have, but it will provide awareness on family planning and child spacing. Under the policy, health centres and aid posts will be required by the state to have all the necessary equipment and information made available to assist families who come for counselling.
Improving the quality of how we look after our children. And I think it starts with these very important decisions that we make at home, and these decisions must be responsible decisions.
The Planning and Monitoring Department is now partnering with health organizations like Marie Stopes and Safe Motherhood to achieve the goals outlined in the policy. Tekla Gunga, National MTV News.
Education Minister Nick Kuman today told Parliament that the 266 reform will be fully implemented next year. This reform means 2 years in elementary, 6 years in primary and 6 years in secondary education. Once it comes into effect, a child entering the education system will leave the system after 18 years. However, the House was told that the department does not have any plans to change the curriculum.
The topic was brought up when answering a question raised by Central Province Governor Kila Hauda.
Under the new school structure, 266, that is 2 years of elementary, 6 years of primary, 6 years of secondary, including grade 11 and 12. Mr. Speaker, my question is, what is the status of our national high schools in the country? Thank you.
Minister Kuman responded saying the status of nationalized schools will be re-looked at once the 266 reform is fully implemented in 2016. Before this policy is implemented, all nationalized schools remain as school of excellence.
The National High School was established to cater for the grade 11 and grade 12 in the old system of education. Now that that old system are now decentralized, we have high schools right throughout the provinces, including the secondary school, and the idea of the National High School to continue to remain in the current form will be relooked again.
A supplementary question raised by member for Anglim South Wagi Common Joe Koim questioned if the government had any plans to introduce a new curriculum to accompany the reform.
We are trying to get all our students into the classrooms and get them out. Do we also have plans to relook at the curriculum? Because right now, most of our students, when they start from primary up to secondary and all the way through, we're giving them that hope that they will finish at university level or some sort of colleges. But when they pass out of grade 10 or 12, it's like they're illusioned and they think that they're failures, and then they fall back into the mainstream.
Minister Kuman responded asking members of parliament to partner with the department to deliver quality education. He said the new policy is to address the increasing number of dropouts each year.
The education system is basically to prepare students to get into a tertiary institution. And in order to get into a tertiary institution, the education department is tasked, and the primary responsibility is to ensure that every child that comes to the school system are prepared to get into tertiary institution. That is how the curriculums are developed.
Michelle Amba, National EMTV News.
Sports Minister Justin Chichenko was again grilled on the status of the Pacific Games venues in Parliament today. This time from Usinobundi MP Anton Yagama, who wanted to know why some venues were built in stages. Mr. Yagama doubted the venues will ever be completed as scheduled.
With 4 months remaining before the Pacific Games, questions are continuously being asked on the completion of the Games venues. Many critics doubt it will ever be completed in time come July 4th. However, Sports Minister Justin Chichenko told critics to remain positive. He was responding to questions by Usinobundi MP Anton Yagama on the current status of the Games venues.
Can the good minister clarify to this House that the facilities will be ready in time for the South Pacific Games and that they will be completed in time and clear this uncertainty to us and to the people of PNG?
The Games will be ready in 2015, July 4th, as I've stated time and time again.
Chichenko says the facilities built in stages at the Hubert Murray Stadium, where it will be completed after the Games. He queried why the Pacific Games continued to be downgraded.
I'm trying to work out what satisfaction do people have in downgrading the Pacific Games all the time. What's their motive? Do they want it to fail? You know, as far as I'm concerned, these games will not fail. And these games will be the biggest success that this country has ever seen as a national event.
But this was not well received by the Grand Chief, Sir Michael Somare, who still wants the minister to clarify further.
Local Sema by take him 1.5 year long complete. There's a Nupla Stadium here. You play give him contract long earlier, but it take him 1.5 years to complete. Me go look in this place. Now minister talk or something by ready on July. Now you make a 4 moon here. 4 moon to start by this game start. You know 1 plus something long PPA long I blow me no looking me ready yet.
Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
The influx of foreigners in Bougainville and concerns raised on the loss of PNG's history. I'll bring you those stories and more coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. A part of PNG's recent history has been lost to time. Efforts to capture the oral history of World War II through the eyes of Papua New Guineans have shown that a lot of Papua New Guineans who witnessed the war firsthand have passed on. There is now an urgency to capture more of these stories throughout the country.
Dr. Andrew Motu is the director of the National Museum and Arts Gallery. From the experience that they have had in documenting World War II stories along the Kokoda Track and in Central Province, they find that it is an overwhelming task on so many fronts.
And because we are dealing with Papua New Guinean subjects, we thought we would do it through orally. Much of what we know about history could not easily be found in books. Very few Papua New Guineans write. Some of them are now found in archival material, but photographs and all those kinds of things might help us later somewhere.
The capturing of World War II stories in Kokoda and Central Province comes under the Oral History Program and is supported by the Kokoda Initiative. The Kokoda Initiative is a bilateral program between the Australian and PNG governments. The team leader of the Oral History Program, Dr. Jonathan Ritchie, describes Papua New Guineans' perspective on World War II history as a dark hole. Apart from Ben Moide's book, very little is known about the Papua New Guinean experience that is told by a Papua New Guinean.
These stories haven't been told, so it's high time that they need to be, and that's what this exercise is about. Getting out there and capturing these stories, not just for now, but for many future generations of Papua New Guineans.
According to Dr. Motu, the sad reality is that we might be a little too late to fully capture this part of PNG's recent history.
Sorry to say that much of it has been lost, and this project has revealed that the value of these things could have been really fixated if it was done perhaps 30 years ago when surviving members of Fasiwasi Angel or the Papuan Infantry Battalion were still around.
Capturing such stories throughout the country is something that needs detailed planning. This week, the National Museum is hosting a workshop that looks at the next step of the pilot project and finds ways to ensure it can be successfully rolled out in other provinces. Dr. Motu hopes that this will contribute towards the museum's vision of seeing more Papua New Guineans placing a greater value on their history.
And, we want to find a way in which we can foster not just a deeper appreciation of history, but to see how a knowledge of history can be utilized elsewhere. And that's a cumbersome, that's an ambitious project.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Questions were raised in Parliament relating to the influx of foreigners taking over reserve businesses meant for Papua New Guineans in the autonomous region of Bougainville. This was raised in Parliament by Bougainville Regional MP Joe Lera, who revealed that there was an influx of foreigners taking over reserve jobs on the island.
Foreigners taking over reserve businesses for Papua New Guinea is an ongoing issue affecting the nation. It's feared there are many foreigners in the autonomous region of Bougainville. Regional Bougainville MP Joe Lera asked the minister responsible if there were any legislations in place to protect local SMEs.
Especially in trade stores, wholesaling, food fast businesses. Can the Foreign Affairs and Labour Ministries also assist by conducting investigations to determine if these foreigners are coming into the province following the Foreign Affairs and Labour laws and appropriate action taken on those found illegally entering the province and engaging in SME research for Papua New Guineans.
Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru informed Parliament that all consultation for the new SME policy for the master plan was complete. In the next 2 weeks, the list of reserve activities and all laws and proposed legislations will go before Cabinet for consideration.
So announced that the Attorney General has now provided funding for the legislation to be drafted. We have met with our lawyers and the draft legislation is being drafted with a plan that the legislation will come to Parliament in May, in the May sitting of Parliament.
Along with proposals to protect the SME sector.
Our proposal will be that businesses which require an initial investment of 10 million or under must be restricted purely to Papua New Guineans. In other words, foreigners with no more than 10 million should never be allowed to come in the country in the first place. So they cannot open small shops, they cannot do any of that.
In the proposal, over 3 years, Foreigners involved in reserve businesses will be asked to leave the country. However, Minister Maro cautioned that the proposal is not to stop foreign investment.
We need foreigners to continue to come and invest in Papua New Guinea, but they should invest in where we really need them to invest, in the big multi-million kina industries.
He says to further enforce all these legislations and policies, the government must invest heavily in the National Development Bank. This will enable local businesses to have the capital to buy off companies currently owned by foreigners. Bridget Komatab, National EMTV News.
The Como Airfield Landowners Association, otherwise known as CALA, is calling on the government to establish a new agreement for the current redevelopment of the airfield. They say over 300,000 people will miss out on community projects or spin-off benefits if this is not considered. The landowners welcome the extension and development of the Como Airfield, but say locals must be a part of it.
Martin Koi, John Oriami and Johnson Kobali are executives of the Como Airfield Landowners Association. They say the government must hear the plight of the locals since no formal agreement was signed for the extension of the Como Airfield. They say the Como Airfield consists of 70 major clans in Block 1787, a total area of 500 hectares. This huge piece of land has been developed by ExxonMobil for the PNG LNG project with agreements signed in Kokopo in 2009.
Government want them, I shouldn't stop one time, so me plus with Papa Grano, I should go in check with 2 1 time. Number you stop together and look go back and people. But people by settle good and stop good, number you stop one time.
The Kala leaders say the 70 clans of Como have integrated landowner groups, but the government must show interest in involving them since they have given their hunting and gardening grounds for development. Earlier this month, a MOU was signed by Civil Aviation Minister David Stephen and ExxonMobil Managing Director Andrew Berry for the commercialization of Como Airfield.
We as a landowner, people by Sita Montana, by me as the village in Nupla formal agreement.
Company one day, company one day, Gaman and Sunny Law, Lickly Gamo Law, Sunny Penis. Nami play looking Papa Garam, the Sindan also one. Nami play Kagi also one. Nami play Tingy also one. Fijay play Sindan also one.
The Kala leaders have addressed letters to National Airports Corporation, CASA, ExxonMobil, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and the Hela provincial government for a new MOU signing. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
The government's integrated financial management system will be rolled out to all levels of government over the next 2 years. Acting Secretary for Finance Dr. Ken Nagan announced this at the system's launch today. The IFMS replaces the old Papua New Guinea government's accounting system and is expected to improve the way public finance is managed in government departments.
The launch of the Integrated Financial Management System or IFMS rollout was witnessed by officers of government departments in Port Moresby this morning. Dr. Nangan said a lot of time and resources were spent on making the system work. He said the old accounting system, the Papua New Guinea Government Accounting System or PGAS, is a solid system, but it has limitations.
Limitations to serve the needs of today. So any system that we use to support us, deliver on the expectations of what we expect to do, must be able to support us deliver. PGAS at its limitation. It is strong, but it's got its limitation. And the Integrated Financial Management System.
Andreas Rebbing from the IFMS system took participants through the agency expectations and the rollout plan.
We've got the budgeting team led by Willie. We've got the accounting team led by Joe Tommy. They get their staff involved in order to start collecting the information. What we mean by configuring is putting your staff, Section 32 officers, requisitioning officers, etc. into the system, but also your account codes and setting up the permissions around that. So that's really important.
3 departments, Department of Justice and Attorney General, PM and NEC, and DPM are already using IFMS. There are plans to roll out the system to 30 departments this year and eventually have it operating in provinces and districts as well.
It will provide more transparency and visibility over the management of public finances. It will make it easier for us to track and monitor expenditure. We should be able to check the funds, making sure that we don't overcommit or underspend.
500,000 kina was also presented to the connectivity provider for their assistance in rolling out the system right down to the districts. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
And now we check out the finance news. The kina closed 10 points lower at $0.3785 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.371 $0.4716 Australian dollars, €0.3221 and 43.81 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and coffee closed lower, cocoa and copper closed higher, while palm oil, crude oil and copper all closed the day lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 28 points higher, the ASX closed at 57 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 55 points higher. You're with National EMTV News tonight. High cases of malaria in West New Britain and New Ireland. Also, World Vision Australia cautions PNG on the escalating TB crisis. Those stories and more in a moment after these short messages. Thanks for your company and welcome back to the news. Reported cases of malaria are still high in Papua New Guinea. West New Britain and New Ireland provinces are listed as extreme, with over 300 malaria cases per 1,000 patients reported each year. PNG Industry Malaria Initiative Project Director Steve Knowles says despite the high cases, PNG can still achieve its malaria strategy 2050.
Malaria remains one of the top 5 killer diseases in Papua New Guinea. Malaria cases reported by PNG industry operators ranked West New Britain and New Ireland provinces as extreme, having the highest cases of 300 per 1,000 people reported each year. Gulf Province is also vulnerable. In 2013, Kerema district alone recorded more than 350 cases of malaria per 1,000 persons, which is double the average cases reported in all of PNG. The PNG Industry Malaria Initiative, a new organization that enlists major resource companies to join the fight against malaria, has been given 10,000 kina donation today by Intaoil to roll out malaria support programs in Gulf Province, where Intaoil mainly operates. PMI Project Director Steve Knowles says the resource sector input will accelerate the implementation of National Malaria Control Strategy, which aim at eliminating malaria by 2050.
Using industry to collectively to have an impact on malaria in the areas of which they operate. And not only for their own in-fence, for want of a better word, or immediate surroundings to their operation, but the community as a whole.
Intaoil says government service delivery mechanism in the province is not effective and their input will go a long way.
About 350 of every 1,000 people had malaria, and that's the highest in PNG. So this is why that we have come in, because we operate there.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea's health system needs to be fixed to enable a free flow of adequate and well-observed services right down to the people's doorsteps. That's from the Executive Director of World Vision Australia, Tim Costello, when commenting on the escalating TB crisis in Daru, Western Province. MTV's Fabian Huckelitz has more in this report.
Papua New Guinea's healthcare system needs intervention by political bureaucrats to ensure it is effective and well received by the entire population. National Health Deputy Secretary Dr. Pyson Drakulala, speaking on MTV's Stock Picture, said the TB crisis in Western Province highlights the common inability of PNG's health system and negligence at the provincial and local level.
Structures that we are building didn't reach many parts of our country.
World Vision Australia Executive Director Tim Costello, in an exclusive interview with MTV, also raised his grave concern on PNG's healthcare system that should be fixed to stop people from suffering. Political bureaucrats from the existing levels of government must work together to ensure efficient and effective health service delivery.
Look, the health system needs to be a one-track health system. Often there's a call to set up almost a parallel track because there's such blockages or obstacles in the health system in PNG.
The health system responsible for addressing TB is currently very fragile and has been worsening in the province while the burden has been growing. Multi-drug resistant TB and extensively drug-resistant TB poses a major threat to an already weak health system in Western, and if not immediately addressed, will cause major health, political, structural and economic problems.
When you have a fragile health system, we saw this in Western Africa with Ebola, the suffering is huge. Strengthening a health system and making it accountable and overcoming the obstacles is World Vision's aim.
As Parliament resumed last week, National Health Minister Michael Malabag appealed to all political bureaucrats to work together in combating the TB epidemic.
We must be seen to be all part of the problem. That is what is happening.
But opposition leader Dawn Poli criticized the national government for failing to quickly intervene and address the TB crisis rather than depending solely on aid donors.
It's one that the government of Papua New Guinea should have addressed already, because the multi-drug resistant TB has been there for a long time now.
Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
The Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea has partnered with the Independent Public Business Corporation to develop 2 of its vacant portions of land in Port Moresby's downtown area. A memorandum of understanding was signed between IPBC Managing Director Wasantha Kumarasiri and Anglican Archbishop Clyde Igara yesterday.
The portions of land have been left undeveloped for the past 20 years, and with the current changes taking place in the nation's capital, the Anglican Church wants to see the land being developed and put into better economic use. The signing yesterday paves the way for the portions of land to be used for commercialization purposes.
IPBC, after several efforts, have been successful in securing our lease arrangements, and also adjoining to our land is the church land, which church has been waiting to develop for some years.
Kumarasiri believes the partnership embraces the trust the church has for IPBC and strengthens the church-public partnership. Meanwhile, the church believes the development of the land can be utilized to its full potential and change the face of town.
And we believe that working together, we can create a good partnership and also become part of the church development as well.
State Investment Minister Ben Micah says the development of land is a bonus to the current ring road in town and Fairfax Harbour.
Government, my ministry and IPBC is seriously looking at completely, reconfiguring and reconstructing the downtown of Port Moresby from the waterfront right into the heart of the former, very strong center of business in downtown Port Moresby.
Jack Lapawe Jr., National EMTV News.
The lack of road signs and increase in the number of vehicles in Port Moresby has prompted the Deputy Police Commissioner, Jim Andrews, to launch a police security operation. This operation will focus on traffic policing within the nation's capital and highways linking central and Gulf villages. It is one operation the constabulary will be tasked to carry out as preparations for the Pacific Games.
This security operation is expected to begin in the coming weeks. It will be a joint operation by the National Capital District Commission, Lands and Physical Planning Department and the Constabulary. Commissioner Andrews described the operation as quite urgent and said in a news release that the 2 organizations must work with police to erect all deteriorated road signs in the next 4 months. Andrews said traffic road signs in Port Moresby are virtually non-existent and has resulted in a number of traffic accidents, congestions, and even traffic infringement cases. He said motorists continue to defy traffic regulations by driving over medians and barricades, and some PMVs keep making dangerous U-turns at places they are not supposed to. Andrews said such lawful motorist behaviors contribute to the general disregard for law and authority in police commands. For instance, NCD, and with only 136 days before the Pacific Games, police are doing all they can to provide security for the Games. The operation will also involve the re-erecting of street names, repainting of street lanes, and streetlights must all be fixed before the Games. Meanwhile, Commissioner Andrews is now embarking on a meeting between the state agencies to meet and discuss all issues surrounding the traffic before the Games commence in July. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
At National EMTV News continues with Trukai Sports, which is coming up next, and you'll have the chance to meet Savina Maras, the 21-year-old golfer setting her sights on the 2015 Pacific Games. Stay with us for that and more.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Well, little is known about Papua New Guinea's family of golfers. There's father Joseph Maras and daughter Savina. Joseph has been an integral part of the development of golf in the country, and now his 21-year-old daughter Savina is one of PNG's best female golfers. She started playing golf at the tender age of 4 and won her first match at the age of 6 in the Licklick Gold Tournament in Lae in 1999. She has also represented the country abroad and is now ready to do it on home soil in July. EMTV's Lorraine Genia caught up with Savina and her family in Lae recently.
This is my first trophy. For the Maras family, golf is part of their life.
And I guess when Savina was growing up, she had no other choice.
Joseph Maras knew by the time his daughter was 6 that she was destined to be a golfer. Savina began playing junior golf at 4 and at the age of 6 started playing competitively.
When I won my first trophy, like in a kids event, like I thought to myself, okay, this is it now. Like I could really make something out of golf and take it serious.
She's yet to become a pro, but has achieved several milestones in her life.
It's actually a really good feeling to like represent your province or your country, and to be able to win something. It's a really good feeling.
Savina won gold for Morobe at the 2009 PNG Games and last year again at the 6th PNG Games. Balancing education with golf has always been a challenge. In 2013, she stopped playing golf entirely to focus on her first year at Unitec in Lae.
She developed an interest in golf, but at the same time ensured that she also was interested in continuing education and doing well at school. So in growing up, she basically grew up between our home, the school, and the golf club.
With exceptions made to her education and the will to represent Papua New Guinea, Savina has now shifted all her focus in the lead up to the Pacific Games. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
And you can catch more of Savina's preparations leading up to the Games in Road to Port Moresby 2015. Banning Rugby League Oval in Jiwaka will play host to the Coca-Cola Ipotas Cup Enga and Southern Highlands Challenge this weekend. Ipotas Cup CEO Timothy Lepa says due to spectator violence and players' safety, games were moved to Bunning. Meanwhile, the Jiwaka Challenge ended on a high note with Kuma Cowboys taking out the Jiwaka Gold Pass for the finals. MTV's Sylvester Gawe has the wrap-up of the details from Lae.
The Coca-Cola Ipotas Cup for Jiwaka Challenge ended on a high note with Kuma Cowboys coming out the winners, defeating Barnes Ekawunu 10-0 last weekend. The competition was played at the Banning Rugby League Oval and drew a good crowd of supporters. The Jiwaka Challenge started on January 30th to the 1st of February with 8 teams taking part.
16 locations, 4 already Gold Pass winners, 12 yet to play. But we got Jiwaka playoff. Cowboys already won the Gold Pass. Eastern Islands, Emo Brothers won the Gold Pass. And in Western Islands, we got tribes.
Banning League, known as the home of the Coca-Cola Ipatas Cup, has been chosen to host the second semi-finals for Western and Challenge next month. The Enga and Southern Islands challenges have both been moved to Banning for the playoffs this weekend.
After 5 years, we went back to Mendi, but they threw the golden opportunity away. So we'll bring on our games back to their neutral ground. Will be in Banning Rugby League ground in Morobe Province, starting this weekend.
Jiwaka Ipatas Cup coordinator Maltime says there won't be any problems hosting the games in Jiwaka. Maltime further assured teams taking part that Banning is a neutral venue with no major problems experienced with supporters in previous years.
Local communities and supporters, they behave very well, and I'm expecting the same from the people. They will give a good support for the visiting teams to come and play.
The executives of the competition are waiting for the head coordinator Jude Koke of Southern Islands and Nathan Anzo of Enga to submit the full report on the ground. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV Sports, Lae.
The Super 9 Southern Leg kicked off last weekend in Port Moresby and ended on a high note as Port Moresby Taudea won the cup finals. The presentation was done in Port Moresby in the presence of the Rugby League Chairman Sandy Saka and CEO Brad Tassel.
The Regional Nines competition kicked off last weekend with the Southern Leg. The first leg was won by Port Moresby South Taudea. The team captain and coach was on hand to receive the 5,000 kina check and trophy by Super Nines organising committee.
Really keen to look at the Nines competition. There's a lot of young talent there, and it's a potential breeding ground and talent identification for the PNG RFL and for the team Kumul program and the PNG Hunters program in future as well.
There are 4 legs, one in each region, and 24 teams in the competition. A Queensland-based team, the Kokomos, will be invited to participate at the tournament in Lae.
The program started last weekend, which was won by Moresby South. This weekend they go up to the Highlands leg. Following weekend they do the Momasa leg, and then we finish up with the NJI leg in Kimbe. The concept is basically to identify the top 9 playing teams and talent throughout the country.
With the competition underway, the second leg will be in the Highlands region and the third leg will be in Medang. The final leg will be in Kimbe in the New Island region. The concept is to identify the top teams and talent throughout the country.
First competition. We really didn't go to win, we just wanted to participate and give our young guys a runner. We had some experience here in Lassen Marape, Stephen Jones, Malon and Jason Koivi. Most of the guys are 19, 21-year-olds, you know. So we basically went out there to just have a run and have a go and see how we went. And I mean, fortunately, good for us, we came away with the cup. Yeah.
The top 2 finalists from each of the considerate pool will be invited to the National Nines tournament in Lae. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
And we've got NRL and Trukai Sports that's coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. NRL Overseas, a surprise for Manly this afternoon with the Sea Eagles announcing that they have resigned Steve Matai. The Kiwi centre had previously pressured the club to release him for the final year of his contract.
Off the field, Manly had a dreadful 2014. Infighting and suspicion among senior players derailing the year. They desperately needed a circuit breaker to lighten the mood. Enter Willie Mason, team pest.
Have you driven anyone crazy yet on the training field? We heard you talking non-stop today.
Oh, that's just a stock standard session, I think. But me and Killer seem to bag the whole team all the time because we've been the oldest. I think we're the oldest or the most senior players in the comp. They give a fair bit back. You know, they always seem to ask, "Oh, how old were you in? You know, when you debuted?" And I said, I was 2000. I was 19. I was in kindergarten.
And what about that little drama at the Auckland Nines, which led to an integrity unit investigation?
I just told them that I got ragdolled by my brother in public, and that was about it. It was just weird how they said Willie Mason was getting done with antisocial behaviour. I was like, I think I talked to everybody in the whole Nines stadium.
So it was just a small thing.
We thought we were going to leave before the 30 or 40,000 left. So we tried to beat him, and then we started wrestling, and like 30,000 people come out. And then I was like, oh God, and then there was like about 20 cops because I think they were worried. And then they put us into a cab and said, see you later.
How long was the wrestle then?
It's a fair wrestle. It's very tired.
In amongst his comedy act, Mason, an elder statesman now at 34, had his thoughts on several rule changes in the game. He fell short of saying the game had gone soft, but he did say it was easier to play in the front row now than it was years ago.
You know, before when Adrian Morley was flying out from four-man and taking your head off, or Gordon Tallis or Shane Webke or Petro, there was a genuine fear factor in the game. It's hard because you can't shoulder charge or you can't hit high, and with the dangerous throws and all these kind of rules. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 6'6" and 120 kilos. I'm not really worried about anyone who's going to really smash me.
And True Kai Sports ends on that note. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
A quick look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region. Cloudy weather with a shower or two expected in the nation's capital. In Momase region, showers plus rain periods expected in Ley City. In the New Guinea Islands, showers in all centres. And lastly, in the Highlands region, evening showers then morning fog anticipated in all centres. Well, that's been National EMTV News tonight. On behalf of the entire crew here, I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks heaps for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night.